right, everybody, welcome back. Today we have Craig and my Twitter friend. David, like how I said that? You're our new Twitter friend. But I have David Ensley, he is an orthodontist who is out of Austin. He's part of a DSO, an orthodontic DSO. And David, you put out really cool content, and your cadence of output from your content is awesome on Twitter. I think you're really adding to the dental Twitter space there, as micro and niche as it is. Everyone says like, how many dentists are on Twitter? I'm like, what? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Well, it's not that many. I mean, I don't know. Like sometimes it seems like only a couple hundred.
Well, that's true. But look, that's a pretty good. When they're active 100, it's good. But anyway, man, it was our idea to bring you on the pod just because I think it's always cool to have a different. You live in the ortho world. I think you were a military guy. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're in the world of like startups and marketing and remote workers, and you're looking always at kind of ways to look at efficiency. And I was like, it'd be a great idea to bring you on from a different optics, right? How long have you been out? I never asked you that actually.
Yeah, I can kind of just give you the quick story. Perfect. Basically, so I went to dental school in Georgia. It's in Augusta. Augusta is a misunderstood city because the Masters is there, but the rest of the city is not quite as nice as the Masters. But I did an Army scholarship, so they paid for my dental school, and then I went on active duty afterwards. And so I did orthodontic residency in the Army down in San Antonio. And then when I got done with my ortho residency, I went to El Paso to do sort of my payback time. So I spent 4 years in El Paso as an Army orthodontist, doing a lot of orthodontic surgery, and did manage to jump out of one helicopter while I was there. So that was fun.
That's right.
And then when I got out of the Army, so I spent 4 years hang on, guys. I've messed you guys up here. I'm not sure if I'm still hearing you guys.
You're good. Sorry. You're good. We hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, cool. All right. Let me back up. You have to edit that out.
That's all good.
We don't edit anything, David. Just say no. We should just name it raw. Dental raw. Cool. Yeah. We raw dog it.
So when I got out of the Army, so I moved to Austin. My wife is from Austin, and she, we wanted to move back close to her family. Her mom was in poor health. So we came here to Austin, and I started working on starting up a practice. And that's where I met Celebrate. Celebrate is the DSO that I'm part of. And so I actually did a startup under sort of the auspices of Celebrate. And we've been open 2.5 years now, and it's been a great ride. So that's kind of the quick story there.
So I found, just to get the listeners up to speed, Peter was pretty active on X, and he's like, look, this is like amazing. This is like almost like when Web 1.0 was around. Like, it's just raw. And he turned me on to Twitter, now X, and I was just amazed because obviously it's a meritocracy. If you post great content, you'll get followers, versus posting great food on Instagram. You'll get good followers, or scenery, or whatever you do on Instagram or Facebook. And I just started loving what you had to say. And like Peter said, the cadence of your content was incredible. It's like every 3 or 4 days, it's something thought-provoking. Your engagement is great. And I'm really thankful that you took the time to come on here, because you have a lot of opinions on dentistry, and you're an active moderator. So I know we want to jump right into it, but just one quick thing so I can understand. You've been on Twitter basically only about a year. So what got you on Twitter?
Yeah, I got on Twitter probably a little bit more than a year ago.
Okay.
And for a while, I was just arguing politics on there and stuff like that, this dumb stuff. And then I kind of realized that there was these guys talking real estate, they were talking business, and they were building connections. They were building a network. They were getting their message out. And
was the name Rahul?
And so I just deleted that account and I started a new one. And
what was your original? You weren't the DSO guy. What were you originally?
Oh, I don't even remember what I was originally. I just deleted that one. Yeah, it was probably embarrassing content.
Yeah, so Peter's always like the guy account. Like,
Yep. You just got to put out great content. I feel like it's almost like a forum just to kind of talk dentistry, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love your comments.
They are good. They are good. So talk to us a little bit about, I am a big fan of startups myself. I know that is where your passion lies, David. And I'm curious to hear how a GP startup is different than ortho. Whenever I think of ortho, I think, and no, not throwing any shade at all, but much easier setups, right? From an infrastructure setup, like throw down a bunch of chairs that don't necessarily have to go up and down because kids can just flop down on them. And, you got all these mobile things. The
Open
infrastructure
bay,
seems
walls.
so much lighter. Am I right? Like, what's your average? Like, they're not even operatories; they're just chairs, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the interplay. The actual build out, the equipment, all that stuff is more expensive with GP. But then the startup phase in an ortho practice, the hard part is the cash flow in the beginning. So think about it. Think about if you did, let's say you did $5,000 per case, you did 20 cases your first month that you were open. So you just did 100,000 in production. Well, you might have only made a $500 down payment for each of those. And so, 20 times 5 is, 10,000. So you made 10,000 in collections, which, is okay. But here you produced 100,000, you collected 10,000. And so it takes a little while for this snowball of monthly payments to build up.
Is there a lot of in-house financing with ortho then?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's some good third-party financing options. For example, Invisalign, they just started a partnership with HFD.
Craig, did you know that?
HFD. Yep. So that's a good way to get your money up front. If you're in a wealthier area, maybe you get a lot of paid in fulls. But if you're doing in-house financing, the cash flow does not happen instantly in ortho. Yeah.
Dave, let me interrupt you just for 1 second. What percentage of your practice is in-house financing versus third party?
Yeah.
So let's take the paid in full out.
Yeah, probably easily 80% in-house financing.
So
I think growing.
So for my entire career and for my entire career of talking to dentists, I always told them, never be the bank. Never do this.
Yeah, you hear that in GP a lot, David.
Yeah,
we see that narrative.
So we never in-house finance. And we're big Invisalign, we're Diamond, Platinum, whatever, Diamond Plus now. We do not offer in-house financing. It's our last default. It's our last move. Just because of that very issue. Yeah. We don't want to be, I also do have a personal belief that when people owe you money, they tend to not like you. That's when you check in at the hotel.
They tend to find problems with your work.
Right. When you check in at the hotel, hey, Dr. Dave, let's just go ahead and run your credit card. We're going to put a $1,000 hold on it. So not only do you pay for what you owe, but we're going to add an additional $1,000
just so you can't dispute this shit.
Rock star on your room. Like what business is that? Like, I know we're going to charge you $300, but I'm going to put an extra $500 on there as a hold. So I just think that there's something optically about handling the money in the beginning. So help me understand why y'all want to do in-house financing.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between braces and Invisalign or general dentistry. So typically with general dentistry, it's all the work is done. You do some fillings, and if you're going to do a in-house financing for that, you're on the hook for all that money. They just disappear on you. With Invisalign, you're kind of more in the middle because it happens so fast. A good case, maybe 6 to 12 months. It's very difficult to in-house finance, 6 to 12 month case because the monthly payments have to just be so high. Braces is a little bit different. Historically braces took, 24 months. Now those treatment times are coming down, but it made it a lot easier to break those monthly payments up over the course of treatment. And so I think that's where braces lends itself to in-house financing. I actually agree with you on the other ones there. I think don't be the bank. We use a lot of Sunbit. We use a lot of HFD for general dentistry and increasingly for Invisalign. Braces still does tend to work fairly well for in-house financing.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is everybody says the same thing. Like, I don't want to use a third party company because they're going to take a percentage of my collections. But I always thought that if you can break it up, because even if your orthodontic case is a year and you gave them 24, 36, 48 months, whatever it is, I am just a firm believer that Americans live in a monthly economy. 40% of Americans have less than $4,500 in their bank account. Yep. If you tell me it's $5,000 or $7,000 versus $126 a month, I'm $126 all day long. But I also do believe that the longer term payment plans, I guess it's just my bias. I just worry that people will find more fault. You always have, if you could separate it out, put it to a third party, they're not paying you, they're paying Sunbit, they're paying Acme, whatever, who cares? Yep. I don't know. I'm fascinated by the fact that orthodontists do that. I don't know of any other business that offers interest-free in-house financing. Do you? Do you know of any other? Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for doing that as a service to our adolescents in America. On behalf of all parents out there, thank you for offering in-house financing. If you could convince the Ritz-Carlton to do the same, we'd greatly appreciate it because our summit's coming up there. Just 1 year of interest-free financing. It's not that big of an ask. Sorry, go ahead. I just had to go on my moment. I'll go back to guest listener.
David, how do you source so what do you do from a startup perspective? Again, I'm wondering if you kind of the same kind of logic we get into from a demographic standpoint. Are you doing retail? Is it the most successful like retail locations right next to a Publix and how much, I want to dip into the marketing too. How much are you shifting now to direct to consumer versus relying on referrals?
Yeah. Great questions. I guess I'll try to walk quickly through sort of our mindset on startups.
Okay.
We were definitely looking for prime retail locations. Retail visibility is super important to us. So we'll start by doing a demographic survey of the whole city. We'll often do heat maps with the different competition ratios, look at incomes.
Who do you use for that?
Yeah. Usually our real estate agent. He does a good job of running those reports. And the nice thing is it's included, I think, there's doctor demographics, there's lots of people out there, but we have a dental specific real estate guy and he does a good job of running those reports for us.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. After we've sort of identified just general location of where we might be interested, that's when we start looking at specific projects. So then he'll start putting projects in front of us. And our criteria is we want really high vehicle traffic. So at least 20,000 per day going by each day from our sites there. We love hard corners and good visibility on the sites themselves. Like you could have really great roadside, traffic and stuff like that. But if you're tucked way back,
doesn't matter.
Yep. At that point, once we actually have a site, one other thing, just a little trick is we like to actually look at Google Maps and look for rooftops. Because sometimes that demographic circle will tell you that the density is good, and it's actually pulling from this area, a mile or 2 miles away or something. In that area right around the practice, there's actually not that much in the way of residential rooftops, basically.
So I want to put a pin in this for a second. So I brought this up in the mastermind too. We coach, and I don't know if I've ever told you, we coach, 30 dentists in a kind of a year-long continuum. And we were talking about site location. And I said, take your demographics report and go one step further, because that data that you're given is usually a lag indication of what is there. So hopefully if the Google, the satellite imagery is updated more, you can see, like you said, roofs under construction. And if you see large plots that are being developed, that is a good lead indication of what's going to happen in the industry. So you could be bird dogging that location, right? That site location, and that kind of intel will really, really put you at a massive advantage if you can play it right. Yep. If you're going into quote unquote an underserved area and you're seeing incredible growth, then you almost can't mess it up, right? Especially if you use the logic you just said on kind of like hard corners and visibility. Like that's where I think that, as much shade as Aspen gets in the dental community, right? From, terrible reviews and not good customer service. And that's not me saying it. Don't sue me, bro. But
there's some Aspens that are very well rated, by the way. Just as
they've nailed overall, Greg, the ones that I've seen, but they overcome all of those negative connotations by having visible buildings, standalone, super visible, right? So they look
great, by the way. They look great.
They look great, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would have a high degree of confidence.
And I think that's where dentistry is. I think that's where dentistry is going. I think it's going to be, we did a podcast with Brandon Moncrief talking about like kind of the future of dentistry, dentist transitioning and what's going to happen for the consolidation. And I think, the days of being tucked away, like you said, David, tucked away back in some office complex, expecting, people to hear of your greatness and come to you, right? Or those days are numbered, right? Especially if you're kind of a solo practitioner, like those days are numbered. You either get eyeballs on you or you might not do well in this next wave of the economy. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying that. I mean, right. But if you're now someone listening to that may be offended by that. Obviously, if you're a legacy doc and you've been there forever, you can probably, you can rest on your reputation. But I'm saying new people should be concerned about attention and eyeballs, because that's the kind of premise of marketing. So anything to add on that, David?
Well, think about this. It's synergistic. So if people are driving by your practice every single day, now when you hit them with a Facebook ad, now when you hit them with something on TikTok, now when you hit them with something, they see your website, they're like, oh, I drive by that place every day. And they kind of feel familiar. So maybe they're not going to come to your practice just because they drove by it, but now they've got a connection. It's a lot more powerful.
So 1 + 1 is 3 kind of thing. I never thought of it like that, but you're so right? It's like playing with I saw that psychology. I've seen them psychology. I don't know where, but it's like your mind saying, yeah, choose them because like, them, right? That seems familiar, and we love familiarity. You're right.
Or think about a Google search. Somebody punches in a Google search and maybe you're number 3. You're not number 1, but you're number 3. And they kind of look at those names and I drive by this one every single day. I'll check that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're bringing up Google. Are you using much like Google, straight up Google ads? Just straight
we built our practice on Google AdWords back in the day. So 10 years ago, when nobody thought that you should do Google AdWords, we were just crushing it on Google Ads.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had the mindset, I'm a doctor. I would never click a Google ad. I know I go to the organic, like the Google ads are a scam. Well, everybody else just clicked the first thing that came up basically. And there's some demographic factors there. Lower income tends to be a little bit more likely to click a Google ad. If you have some person with 3 degrees, they're a lot more likely to scroll down to the organic section. But yeah, we always spent heavily on Google ads. It's getting more and more and more expensive.
What is what is just quote orthodontist? And not even putting in Austin, but someone who's in Austin typing in orthodontist, what does that click cost? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. It varies.
I'm guessing $22.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, Craig? So then factor in your how good are you at conversion? Meaning you see some of these people and they're paying a $22 click, driving someone to a shitty website that is not capable of converting anybody because it looks terrible. It looks like it was built 20 years ago. And they're like, well, I don't want to pay for a new website. That's too expensive. I'm like, what do you think? What are you talking about? Like it's simply the metaphor of what we just gave for the Aspen, right? The standalone building. Like that's the digital metaphor for your practice. And it makes no sense to spend $22 clicks and put a $3,000 a month budget in place only to have this conversion be abysmal. And I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the frustration of the dental marketers is. They get their phone to ring and they pay the dental marketing company, 5 G's and like your shit didn't work. Like, no.
Well, you jumped ahead, Craig. You jumped ahead. So so click. And now let's say you like the website, like this looks pretty good. Okay. That's step 2. Now step 3 is pick up the phone. And that's where the marketers get frustrated. It's like they didn't convert the phone call. So you have many chances to fail in this conversion.
Yeah. Think about it. They call you and you don't pick up, you're not answering the phones at lunch, or they put a form fill in and you're a lady at the front desk, emails them back.
Or someone leaves a message and you don't check voicemail for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Ask me how, it's like all these things are just, ugh.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what do you use from a technology standpoint of talking about conversions? Do you use anything like AI or any technology that helps?
Yeah, let me kind of fill you in on some of the technology that we use. Yeah. So all of our social media, organic leads, anything like that, it flows into the Go High Level CRM.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know what a CRM was a year or 2 ago, but this CRM, customer relations management. It allows us to keep all our leads in one spot. And then we have remote employees that monitor those CRMs and follow up with those leads. And what we find is that, TikTok, Meta, stuff like that, you can get a lot of cheap leads. Like we were running a Meta campaign. I think we were getting $6, leads the other day. But a lot of them don't convert. So, they do a form fill or something. And for every 10 of them maybe you get 2 of them scheduled. But if they're cheap enough, we're fine with that. So we use this CRM to have everything all pulled together, and you can do drip campaigns, automated messages, and then you can also track how things are converting, so you can look and see, I spent X amount of dollars basically to bring all these leads in through TikTok or Meta or Google Ads or organic or whatever the case may be. And then you can actually track all the way down to conversion to see how much actually converted.
This is another area where I see we talk about consolidation of dentistry, David. I see this is where our practice management softwares are getting better and better intelligence, right? It used to be that like, here's practice management and here's CRM. Yep. And now some PMSs have gotten just way more intelligent about trying to combine, right? So it's not like, right, Go High. I have heard good things about that, but like learning a CRM, it takes its own master's degree to do that, right? You have probably hundreds of hours, I'm guessing, involved in this, right?
Yeah, and it's the type of thing, sometimes you get a new staff member and they're intimidated by it and stuff like that.
But I'm saying you onboarding this, I'm guessing,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure, he says. Yeah. So like, that's where people are like, oh, that sounds good in concept. And like, maybe when you're doing it at scale, like David, like you guys are, it makes a lot of sense, but maybe it's overkill for someone. That's where I'm excited, where I see like, Craig, does Open Dental Craig uses Open Dental. Do they have kind of a built-in CRM? I know CareStack is migrating that way. So we do a lot internally with that stuff. And that was actually one of my criterion I was looking for. I was sick of having all these disparate software, third-party APIs trying to talk to each other. And I was like, oh, I hate this shit.
Yeah.
They all have like 80% of their features are redundant, by the way.
Redundant.
So everyone has a review sourcing plugin. It's like there's 1 or 2 features that you need from each one. So you just wind up with 9 plugins. It's so annoying. No, I think CareStack's way ahead of the curve than all the others. But look, I mean, there is a democratization of this technology, and it's going to hit just the mere mortals like us. So
well, the cool thing is like the cost to develop code, right? This used to be a big impediment for startup companies and dental software because there's not that much budget, right? But now like the cost of code development has plummeted because of AI and like some of these co-pilots that I think there's going to be some really cool advancements. David, so talk to me about, I'm really interested in this. Talk to me about some of your offshore employees and how you've, because we have tried that through certain companies that have, like, for instance, there was one like out of Zimbabwe and they were doing insurance verifications, and like, it's never as sexy and romantic as I think the idea is. It's never worked out well for us. So obviously you know something that we don't know, or you figured out something that we can't, but tell me more about how this started, how you've been successful, and what operations they're doing.
Yeah. So this was something that we really got enthusiastic about because of Twitter. On Twitter, there's just a whole community of people that are running these remote staffing agencies. So they're talking about it all the time.
They're talking about Shepherd. Oh, they talk about Shepherd.
Yeah. So there's several. I mean, there's a bunch of them.
That dude's out of Athens, Georgia, by the way.
He is. Yeah. Go Dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. I went to UGA. So
Nick Huber, that's his name. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. A sweaty startup guy. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, there's Support DDS is another one that might have, I know they did Zimbabwe, so that might have been the one you were talking about, but
maybe, I can't remember.
Yeah. So we've got a few different roles. So we have some remote bookkeepers. We have some customer service type of people. We have some insurance verification stuff, and we have marketing. And marketing is kind of the interesting one. I'll talk about that a little bit more. I was more heavily involved in that one versus some of the others. I used a company called Pavago. I'm friends with the guy on Twitter that owns it. That's the crazy thing about Twitter. It's just like, you just know this guy that owns a remote staffing agency.
Amen. It's so cool.
Yeah. So we used Pavago, and he was telling me, he was like, hey, like in Pakistan, these guys, that's who agencies hire. So when you're talking to these people at the conferences and they have their agency, like they're almost a sales team, and then they just outsource the work to Pakistan, like wherever. Not all of it. I mean, but some of the work is done. He's like, why don't you just go direct to the source, basically? And so we used Pavago. They did some kind of headhunting. And so we hired 3 people, 2 through Pavago, 1 the guys actually kind of like found for us, basically. But the guy I hired for digital ads, he started a company when he was 16, left Pakistan to go to China to go to university, and then he got like advanced business degree. He was the CMO at a company, and then I hired him for $1,850 a month. And
so what does that break down to? Yeah. So 40, 16. So let's call it 40 hours a week, 160. So
that's a crazy thing. He's a workaholic. He probably works 60 hours a week on his own.
What?
Yeah.
So your CMO works for like $3 an hour. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that's a great salary.
Does he have any bandwidth?
He's going to be able to build a family. Yeah.
We'll pay him $1,875.
Yeah.
Akbar, if you're listening.
Well, we're actually going to give him a raise. He's definitely earned it. But my point being that you can get very, very talented, very educated people for very affordable prices, basically. And it's kind of hit or miss.
Wow.
We hired
Pete,
some people.
Can we get our CMO? Can we get our VP CMO? Does he have a brother or cousin?
Yeah.
We can go to China. Let's go take a business trip. Where's he in Pakistan? Islamabad?
David, to your point, it is a global economy, right? Yeah. And so we get very myopic with like, I'm having troubles hiring this person. And like the rest of business world is very like, hey, let's go global. And dentistry's like, no. I want to look at someone every day. Right. I want them in my city, Yeah. And so I love it that you have taken, because I'm sure it's been beneficial to y'all's EBITDA, right? Right?
Of course. Yeah.
And so
look what he's doing. He's leveraging your CMO and works for $11. I don't have anybody in my company that works for $11 an hour.
Yeah.
There's no one. It's illegal actually to hire someone in my company for a minimum wage in the state of Florida is 12.
So is this a let's save money, or is this let's create an ability to scale without limitations, so to speak, right?
Yeah, this is a very astute question, because I think the idea of saving money is where people miss out on this.
Yes.
The idea isn't necessarily to save money. The idea is to get more specialized roles and better talent than you can hire here in the US that sticks around. A lot of times these people are very loyal. And I think you can kind of get more expertise if you do it right in the right roles, kind of get to more specialized roles. Instead of having one person has to wear all these different hats, and to get somebody who's capable of doing that, you got to pay them $40 an hour in the US. You can get somebody who's a very specialized role for an affordable price and build a team instead of just trying to have one person.
Did you bird dog all this in your y'all's ecosystem?
I did the whole marketing team. So that was kind of an initiative I took on. The customer service stuff, that's been more the founder. He's been working on that as far as call center stuff.
Is the founder an orthodontist as well?
What's that?
Is the founder an orthodontist as well?
He is, yeah.
Is he still clinically? I know you're clinically providing care. Is he?
Mm-hmm. He does like a day or two a week. He still just enjoys being in clinic, and sometimes, he probably should kind of have quit completely, but
it's easy as an orthodontist. You just go around high-fiving everybody, look in their mouth. Looks good, Karen. To put on the band, tighten it up. Looks good.
Your cruise director.
Actually, it's really helped us with our organization as far as scaling, just because there is kind of owner energy time, like whatever during the workday, basically. Sometimes in general dentistry, if you're in the chair, you were head down, like your back hurts at the end of the day, you were in the chair for 8 hours. There was not a second to send an email or anything. Like,
trust me,
as ortho, you got
time. That's cool. So you guys have kind of, would you be interested in teaching a workshop at the next summit? Because everyone who hears this is going to want to be interested in how you can, like, what your plan was for creating, offshore talent, right? Because I think everyone thinks immediately that sounds like a lot to manage, but you're saying it's actually in direct opposition to that, because the specificity to each role creates kind of some autonomy. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. And I think you have to have a plan for managing it. So I have a marketing consultant that I work with, and like at the very beginning of the relationship, he kind of pitched me. He was like, "Hey, you're small enough. You can't hire a CMO. You need a fractional CMO. That'll be me." And so, we did, paid ads together and all sorts of stuff. But then when it came time to hire this team, I was like, calling you on this. I need you to be the fractional CMO. I need you to help manage these guys. And he's done that. So that's been key. I put a lot of effort into it as well. But then hiring, you guys know, when you hire an A player, they just bring so much more to the equation. And that's where we got really lucky, because the guy that we hired that I was talking about, he was number 2 on the recommendation list. So Pavago kind of gives you recommendations, and their recommendation is really, really good. But the number 1 guy, he just didn't have that it factor like this guy. This guy, he just had that leadership vibe, basically. And so he's been the key to the whole thing, really, because he's such a go-getter, such initiative. So if you're looking for remote, that's really what you need to do, is you need to find somebody with that initiative and everything, and do a good job of managing them. Because if you just sort of throw them to the wolves, they're not going to do a good job.
Well, it's the old mantra. If you get on Twitter, they always say, like, hire slow, fire fast. Mm-hmm. And in dentistry, we do the exact opposite. At least I used to. I used to hire fast and fire slow.
Yep. Been there.
Right. And so you learn a little bit more from the vetting process. Take your damn time, do test projects. How would you perform this? Ask questions, like get personality profiles, things like that really give you some good insight. Because if you've been in the business long enough, you've had the pain of knowing, like, maybe that hire slow, maybe there was something to that kind of that mantra. Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. I'm very interested in that. I actually want to pick your brain a little bit, because I'm not going to use that term, pick your brain, because that's my pet peeve. People hit me
Peter,
up.
That's a little inside joke between Peter and I. Twitter just like constantly rags on people saying, I want to pick your brains. So
trust me, it's not only a Twitter phenomenon. Yeah.
It's a Craig Spodak thing. He probably gets it 3 times more than we do, David. Yeah. And so it's funny.
But we had a podcast like years ago, like just never asked that. Never asked to pick our brain.
First of all, no. Never asked to pick anyone's brain unless there's some way to reciprocate in kind, right? Not saying that it's a transaction, like give me something, I'll give you something. But why should someone give up one of the most valuable currencies, which is their time, when you've not leaned in? And so Craig's had conversations like, "Hey, so have you read our book?" And they're like, "Nope." Have you listened to any podcasts? No, nope. I haven't had time. Have you come to any summits?
Summit?
Nope.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to dig in and have a phone conversation, right? Like that doesn't seem equitable.
There's a whole podcast on the question you asked.
Yes.
An hour for your listening pleasure.
For your enjoyment.
Yep.
Anytime you want. Yeah.
I just think that's a good life thing, right? Like, look, before you ask someone for a currency of theirs, whether, make sure that you're trying to provide reciprocal value, without just take, right? I think, what does Chris Tuff call them? Craig, he calls them assholes. Remember when he used to say assholes?
Oh, that's a joke. Well, a joke is an asshole is someone who consistently asks you for their advice and doesn't heed it.
Oh, okay.
So ask you the same question, like, should I do this? No, do not do that. That's a terrible idea, and does it anyway. That's an asshole.
Okay, there. I conflated it all.
Yeah. And really, I think that's how we've actually built our organization, because we have all partners.
On assholes?
No, reciprocation. Yeah. We kind of view it as if we're making our partners' lives better, if they're getting more out of the equation than they're putting in by being a part of our group, we're going to be successful. So that's always how we've kind of viewed partnership, is just make sure we're kind of giving more benefit to the partners in our group than we're taking.
So you guys,
your GSO, you guys are partners. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I think there needs to be more access to Holdco or more access to entrepreneurial profit. There needs to be a democratization of ownership in dentistry. I think the idea that the dentist is replaceable is unfortunate, and I think it's the Achilles heel of most DSOs is losing docs. Mm-hmm. So if there's an ownership and partnership strategy built into the model, I think that's beautiful. So kudos to you guys. Does everybody have an opportunity for partnership?
The majority of our doctors are partners. There's some associates in our organization. I'm not saying there's no associates, but the majority of the doctors are partners.
But is there a pathway too, if someone was very interested?
Yeah. What we want is partners because the things that you mentioned there, retention, quality, just kind of drive, like we feel like if people own something, they're going to be a lot more invested. The founder, Dr. Ferguson, he says there's no such thing as a good associate. If they're good, they'll leave. So that's kind of
people don't wash rental cars. That's for sure.
So anyway, our goal is to have people join us partners.
That's a good, look, I always used to say, if you attract a thoroughbred, if you don't give them a pathway to partnership, like they're going to go run in their own pasture eventually if you don't, right? And so if you just want kind of C and D talent, then like that model may work and you can be the keys to the kingdom and it may work for you, but you're going to have a lot of turnover, a lot of attrition, a lot of problems potentially, rather than just bringing on A people and give them a piece of the pie, but then focus on growing the pie to feed a lot more people, right? Like
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate the narrative that the dentist has. Like, well, I worked so hard in this practice, and I don't want to give away any of my equity. I'm like, you have a 3-chair facility. You do $800,000 a year. It's not what you've built is great. Congratulations, but it's not that remarkable that you can't give some away. I mean, look at NVIDIA. Secretaries at NVIDIA are multimillionaires now. So there is this idea that if and also you get a different level of performance from a person once they become an owner. And by the way, just Pete, I wanted to announce I just signed on my second partner. Alfredo's a partner now.
No way!
Alfredo full partner.
Just today.
Just today, he called me last night. He signed the document. Him and his wife were cheering champagne.
That's awesome!
Isn't that cool?
Congratulations, bud.
Been with me for 7 years, so
that's awesome. He's going to be a great addition. He's a great guy.
He already is. So just a little shout out there.
That's super cool. Where was I? I was actually going.
A void in the marketplace right now, if you think about it, right? Because 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you would graduate dental school, an old guy would retire, you'd buy his practice, you'd walk into ownership basically. And there was some good stuff about that. There's some bad stuff about that. The bad stuff was some of those people had no business owning a practice. I think there's some people that they don't have that business mindset. They were miserable. Like the joke about
what percentages of the dental population that you believe should have no reason to own their business? Give me the number.
That's hard. I think they're,
throw it out there. What percentage?
Because I think you can learn. I think it's something that you can grow and stretch and everything.
Okay.
But I don't know. That's
okay. Complete your thought then. I just wanted to hear if you had a number in your head, because I had a number in my head. But since you didn't say anything, I won't say mine.
Okay, I'll be bold. I'll say I think it's maybe about 20 to 30% of people.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's probably
a little higher for me.
Yeah. I think there's a middle section that can stretch and grow that aren't initially ready to own a practice, but then if they really kind of dig in and invest themselves, that they'll get there. But so now, like, the problem is that everybody's graduating school and it's very difficult to go buy a practice. There's not very many practices for sale. It's difficult to start up. You have a bunch of student loans. And so they're getting stuck being an associate much longer than they really would want to, and more than their talents would deserve, just because their
options are limited.
Yeah, their options are limited. Yeah. So that's where I think having group partnerships basically that provide a pathway for people to get to ownership is a really valuable thing.
What is the average debt that, since I don't know anything about ortho, what is the average debt load that you are seeing new grads in that are coming out of specialty, ortho specialty?
Yeah, probably somewhere around $500,000, I would think. Because the problem is all that debt's just compounding. You go to private dental school and now you got to spend 3 years getting an ortho residency, and the interest is just ticking up. And there's some very expensive ortho residencies. I mean, some of them are $70,000 a year, and they're pushing to be 3-year programs just so they get more money.
Of course, why not make it 5 years?
Yeah, it's a business. Yeah. This is good.
The debt's pretty staggering. Yeah.
You know how long it takes to be able to bend wire, especially if you have a long name, and lay it flat on a glass block? Yeah. And that's what I had to do. Like at Tufts in 1998, like that was the prerequisite. You had to, I mean, I felt bad for really long names. It'd be great if you like Todd Don or something like that. You had to be able to bend your name in wire and have it lay flat on a glass block. And then 10 years later, like you can click and drag the tooth where you want. And the clear aligner company's like, we'll do that. Don't worry about the wire. You want to move the tooth here? Gotcha. No problem. 8 needs to go up? No problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, your upper left one. Sorry, I didn't mean to say 8. Upper left one.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak. I got to be careful.
Don't speak GP to him, Craig.
Don't
Shame
talk GP to me.
Don't talk GP to me.
Craig, don't talk GP.
Don't pull me down in the gutter. Don't pull me down the gutter.
Yeah.
This trash
I think
talk.
most of those times they were just trying to convince people they didn't want to do ortho. They weren't actually trying to teach you ortho. They were just trying to make it seem miserable,
Right.
Yeah.
They were just weeding you out. That's
right.
what they were doing.
It's like organic chemistry for us. Yeah. That's what you guys live in, like the blockers of the specialty. By the way, what do you see? Are you seeing the encroachment of GPs eating away at your market share? What's your feeling about that? Like with clear aligners specifically?
Yeah. I mean, a few things that I see, there definitely are some ortho practices that are not as busy as they would like to be. So, I mean, that tells you that there is definitely competition. I think that a lot of the aligner patients that are seen in a GP practice would not have gone to an orthodontist in the first case. So I think it does grow the pie. So that part of me makes me not, upset about GPs doing ortho. And then a part of it is there's a lot of orthodontists graduating. I mean, that's for sure. And then orthodontists are becoming more efficient. So 20 or 30 years ago, the number of patients that you could competently and treat with high quality was much less, with digital technology now, with, just advances in brackets and stuff like that. We don't ban.
And also the fact that you guys don't really work. I mean, that's an small distinction. Hey, you look good, Becky. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just so much more efficient. We just walk around with the coffee all day,
Right. Yeah. That's what I think the true efficiency is like, you walk around with coffee looking at 10 patients at once.
That's right. Let the assistants
versus us like hanging upside down, like prepping the distal of 15.
Yeah.
Sorry, the upper left 9. Sorry. Yeah. I didn't mean to say that.
My back has not hurt since I went into ortho. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
No, of course not. It's not hard to walk around. Depends on the size of your coffee. If you got like a Rambler size, you upgrade your coffee to like a 28-ounce Rambler, you can have some subscapular pain,
I dropped that to kind of 3.5 clinical days recently. And so I was getting some kudos on Twitter.
Do you drink coffee another 2 days a week? Yeah. Or you only have coffee 3 days a week?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God. You're banging up on the ortho.
I'm sorry. No, I love it. Listen, the last 2-3 years of my clinical career, I identified as an ortho.
Yep.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. It's true. That's
awesome.
I'm
looking at. Look, I encourage everyone if they're on Twitter and they want to follow David. He's at the DSO guy.
Yep.
And your last post you did a couple of days ago was talking about like answer rate on phones, right? And like 2 points on this is that you're bringing something up good. I think this is very pertinent to bring up for dentistry, right? We talk about marketing, we talk about conversions, and everyone thinks their answer rate is 100% until they get technology that tells them you're not so hot. Yep. Ask me how I know. Yeah. And what I think is fascinating about Twitter and dentistry is that, like you said, David, it's not just collaborating with dentists, but like how much real estate collaboration have you had, right? How much like, financial conversation, like it's a whole, we in dentists sometimes think that like we get educated only through other dentists kind of thing. And that's where I love, like Craig, you said, it's the meritocracy of knowledge and kind of just collaborating with, like, I've gotten a lot of help from some real estate projects on Twitter, right? Like, what should I do with this property? How should I convert it? How should I do, things like that. So, I'm looking at your replies to that question about answering the phones. Yeah. And you did have a bunch of dentists reply or some dentists reply. But you're saying, what you were saying in that post was that it should be, most practices are in the 60% answer rate, right? Meaning 40% go unanswered,
right? But
the leading practices are probably in the 90%. But where I'm going is that most people don't even know.
Right.
Right. And that's a marketing problem. It's not marketing in itself, but it's a marketing problem because that is the eventually the KPI of how good your marketing is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I know I'm kind of looping back in, but what I was trying to do, I'm not trying to get back into marketing. What I was trying to do is just talk about your engagement on Twitter and just that, encourage everyone to kind of get into that pool of conversation. Start somewhere, because none of us have this figured out. David, you don't have this figured out. I don't have this figured out. Craig doesn't, and the people who do think they have it figured out are usually the people you don't want to take advice from, because that advice is pretty antiquated.
What's next? If you have it figured out, you're not growing.
Totally. I spent a lot of time on orthodontic Facebook groups. There's some really good ones. There's some really smart guys on there, but you kind of realize it's a little bit of a bubble. You're asking a bunch of orthodontists who did the exact same thing. They got biology majors. They went to dental school. They started a practice. They know the same stuff as you do, basically.
And how much confirmational bias is in that advice, right? Like, well, I did this, therefore it's right, versus like someone coming about it from a totally different vantage point, right? And so
it's unfortunate, by the way, that dentists, I guess that's what I keep saying, unfortunate that dentists, that's my name, that's my thing today, but it is strange and upsetting that dentists only like to listen to dentists. And if I'm being fully open about my own trajectory, I learned the most from my business professionals. I think, Pete, you have as well. My business professional friends, I imported their ideas. There's just something about dentists that say, or orthodontists for that matter, like, well, you don't understand my business. You have to be a dentist to understand my business. But at the bottom of it all, it's all really the same. And I think that's what has been a secret ingredient for you. You've gone on, X and dental on Twitter, and you've learned from real estate professionals and Pavago and all these people. That was probably not from a dentist at that point, So, I think there's a lot of,
you're saying a lot of his innovation didn't happen because of the bulletin boards or forums of other ortho, right?
Yeah. His foray into Twitter exposed him to a whole bunch of a wide variety of business professionals that gave him that advantage.
Yeah.
That was the same thing for me.
You're interacting with accountants and other small business guys and SEO guys and,
accountants, marketers, real estate professionals, like
real estate.
And you ask a question, then someone will tag. And so it creates a very, it's like the engaged people of the economy are kind of like participating there, right? Meaning like, hey, someone will get tagged and then you'll get connected. And then it's like, oh, cool, Pavago or this real estate professional, or, like Craig, you and I have had cool conversations with even like private equity has reached out. Just like, I love what you're doing. David, I'm sure you get hit up all the time, being that you're the DSO guy. Private equity who's looking for investment in the dental space is going to probably reach out to you potentially,
Also some people with cool projects, there's definitely a lot of people that are trying to sell whatever, company they're building, but they're neat companies. It's not just kind of like the stuff that you'd see at a dental show, basically. So for example,
the last 10 minutes was sponsored by Elon. We got a lot of sponsorship dollars. So Elon Musk has sponsored the last 10 minutes of promotion from the Bulletproof. Yeah. Apparently he's spending like 45 million a week to his own super PAC. So like, what's a couple mil to Bulletproof?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I'm Elon's paid it forward for me. I would not have any reception at my ranch, nor I would not be off grid without him. So I have Starlink and Tesla Solar Wall. So I'm a big. I think he's an American treasure. that guy.
I will give people a tip. If they get on Twitter, you got to cull your feed ruthlessly, like be focused, like know what you want out of it. Cause if you don't, it's just going to be, politics and anime or something like that, like you got to focus in like the people you follow, the stuff that you interact with, because Twitter will just show you more of what you interact with. So just be ruthless about only interacting with stuff that brings value, basically.
What's next for you, bud? Like what's the next 5 years? I mean, you seem pretty young. You've got great ideas. Like what's your path look like?
Yeah, we're just trying to build more practices in the Austin region. So we're actually actively building one in North Austin right now that we're looking for partners for. So if you want to join a practice in Austin, we'd love to hear from you.
Will you take someone who's moderately good at bending wires like Craig?
Yeah, well, actually, we're looking for GP partners.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Better, yeah. Well, let's talk offline. I might be interested.
Yeah, there you go.
That might be a long commute. Well, David, it's good to connect with you in person, right? I think so many times, these virtual things stay virtual, and it's actually funny. Like I actually met someone. One last thing, it's a story about this. I actually met someone on Twitter, and it went from virtual to him going to our conference. But he's in dentistry and he's in AI. His name is Shreyas, and he came to our conference and really leaned into our ecosystem. And it's just
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So like he came and stayed in my city for a couple of days and kind of audited our operations. Then he came to Summit, and he's just a really cool guy. So like another cool virtual relationship that now has become personal, right? Like you as well. So it's awesome.
Hey, Pete, you and I we're virtual to personal.
That's true. That is true.
Way back in 2016.
We talk about this a lot, David, and Craig likes to tell everyone on stage and otherwise that I slid into his DMs.
I think it's a funny thing to say. My kids laugh when I say that.
It never gets old. It never gets old. I love it.
It is true. You reached out. I mean, if you look it up, like what is sliding into someone's DMs? I mean, you don't know the person and you DM them. That's what you did.
But usually it's from the vantage point of like someone trying to hook up.
I thought that was, I kind of figured that's what it was at the time.
I thought that's what you were doing.
Yeah. What have you been doing these last 9 years? Like, what's the deal? I didn't realize I'm writing a book and doing this crap with you.
My God. That's funny.
It happens to the DMs.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
All right, buddy. Well, it was good to see you, David. I hope to connect with you. I want to connect with you offline a little bit more about some of this operational scale and remote workers, if you don't mind. And but don't worry, I'll bring something in reciprocation that will benefit your life. Don't you worry. This will not be a pick your brain conversation.
Well, why don't you allow him on the podcast and solicit for a GP partner in the Austin area?
Well, he just did. Perfect. Done.
Yeah, maybe we could do something like that. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. I don't know.
There you go.
Just throwing something out there that might be valuable. Well, David, how do they hit you up? They got to go on X and go to the DSO guy. Is that the best way?
The DSO guy. That's right.
At the DSO guy.
The DSO.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, if you find the partner, let us know.
Hey, David, you should start becoming, obviously, your listener, you should come to speaking of conferences, you should come. You should come to the next one.
I would love to, yeah.
And I actually, in all seriousness, if I'm going to vet this whole remote worker thing, but in all seriousness, that would be a really cool workshop, Craig. Don't you think?
I love it. Believe me, I put on my morning notes for Erica tomorrow. Talk about Vivago.
So maybe, David, that's something that you could come and teach our audience. That way, it's not till next August, so don't worry. Okay. You got well over a year.
Yeah, there's some kind of little behind the scenes things that we've learned kind of through trial and error.
That would be awesome.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, we haven't figured out everything
All right,
yet.
this is your official invite. Craig says it's so we're going to make it happen.
Next year, we'll have it figured out. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Yeah, August 7th and 8th in Orlando, or 2025, the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah. There you go.
It's nice weather in August in Orlando. It's balmy in 95. Actually, no different from Austin, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was 105 last year here over the summer.
Dude, it's like that everywhere, right?
That's true. And not to get tangential, I just saw on X, yesterday was the hottest day ever.
Where?
For the globe. I don't know. That's what it showed up as the global temperature, I suppose. Temperature of Earth.
What was it in Aspen?
71 and low of 43.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. David, again, nice to connect, buddy. We'll wrap and
Good hanging with you guys.
we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. See you later.